If a woman tells you her problems, she's not being weak. She's testing whether you are safe. Miss this signal and you'll never understand women again. When a woman tells you her problems, the first misunderstanding most men fall into is labeling it as complaining. That word alone shuts down empathy. Complaining sounds noisy, unnecessary, repetitive. But what she is actually doing is something far more intentional and far more selective. Women do not emotionally open themselves to everyone. They are constantly filtering who is safe, who is attentive, who is emotionally mature enough to hold space without judgment or ego. So when she chooses to speak to you about what is bothering her, it means you have passed an internal screening process that you never saw happening. She is not just talking, she is granting access. Emotional sharing is a form of trust that develops slowly. It requires safety, consistency, and emotional presence. A woman does not reveal her fears, frustrations, disappointments, or insecurities to someone she feels will mock her, minimize her, or rush past her feelings. She shares because she believes you can sit with discomfort without becoming defensive or dismissive. This is not accidental behavior. This is deliberate vulnerability. The very act of telling you her problems signals that she believes you are capable of understanding her inner world without trying to control it or escape it. For women, trust is not built through words alone. It is built through emotional experiences. When she talks about her problems, she is observing how you respond under emotional pressure. Does your tone change? Do you become impatient? Do you interrupt? Do you immediately try to fix her as if her emotions are a problem that needs to be removed rather than a reality that needs to be acknowledged? Every reaction you give becomes data, and that data either confirms her sense of safety or slowly erodes it. This is why emotional sharing feels heavier to men than to women. Men are often taught to deal with issues privately, to solve problems silently, and to view emotional expression as weakness. Women, on the other hand, process emotions externally. Speaking is how clarity is formed. Expression is how regulation happens. When she speaks to you, she is not offloading stress. She is regulating herself through connection, and she is choosing you as the medium for that regulation, which says far more about her perception of you than about the size of her problems. Understanding this changes everything. Instead of seeing her words as noise, you begin to recognize them as signals of closeness. Instead of feeling burdened, you realize you are being trusted. Instead of withdrawing, you become present. And presence is the currency of emotional intimacy. The men who understand this do not feel overwhelmed when a woman opens up. They feel grounded. They recognize that emotional access is not freely given. And when it is offered, it carries weight, meaning, and responsibility. When a woman talks about her problems, most men instinctively shift into solution mode. This reaction feels logical, efficient, even caring from a masculine perspective. Identify the issue, analyze it, offer a fix, move forward. But this approach misunderstands what is actually happening in that moment. Her problem is not the situation she is describing. Her problem is the emotional weight she is carrying inside her body. Until that emotional weight is acknowledged and understood, no solution will feel right, no advice will land properly, and no action will feel supportive. Fixing too early doesn't make you helpful. It makes you emotionally unavailable. Understanding comes before solutions because emotions need validation before they can be released. When a woman speaks, she is often seeking resonance, not repair. She wants to know whether you can emotionally align with her experience, whether you can grasp how the situation made her feel, not just what technically went wrong. When you immediately offer advice, it can feel as though you are skipping over her internal reality, as if her feelings are an inconvenience standing in the way of efficiency. This creates emotional disconnection even when your intentions are good. From her perspective, being understood is safety. It tells her that her emotions make sense, that she is not overreacting, dramatic, or irrational. Many women grow up being subtly taught that their feelings are excessive or inconvenient. So when she opens up to you, she is watching closely to see whether you will reinforce that fear or dissolve it. A man who listens without rushing, who acknowledges without correcting, who stays present without controlling the outcome, communicates emotional strength far more powerfully than a man who rushes to solve. Fixing first can also feel like dismissal. It can sound like, "This is simple. You're making it bigger than it is," even when that's not what you mean. Emotional experiences are subjective. They don't operate on logic alone. What feels small to you may feel deeply personal to her. When you try to fix without understanding, you unintentionally center your perspective over hers. Understanding, on the other hand, requires humility. It requires you to temporarily suspend your need to be useful and instead choose to be present. This is where many men struggle because presence feels passive and passivity is often confused with weakness. But emotional presence is not passive at all. It requires restraint, patience, and emotional regulation. It means tolerating discomfort without escaping into logic. It means allowing emotions to exist without trying to manage them away. This ability signals emotional maturity and psychological safety, which are deeply attractive traits. Once she feels understood, something shifts. Her nervous system settles. Her emotional intensity softens. Only then does advice become welcome rather than intrusive. At that point, if she asks for your opinion, it will be received as support rather than control. But until understanding happens, fixing feels like avoidance. Listening is not the absence of action. It is the most important action in emotional connection. When a woman allows herself to be vulnerable with you, it is often misinterpreted as emotional instability or unnecessary drama. This misunderstanding usually comes from a discomfort with emotions rather than an understanding of them. Vulnerability is not chaos. It is exposure. It is the moment when a woman lowers her emotional defenses and allows you to see parts of her that she keeps hidden from most people. This level of openness does not happen without emotional attraction. A woman does not risk being seen, misunderstood, or judged by someone she does not care about or feel connected to. Emotional attraction for women is built through safety, presence, and consistency. When she shares her fears, frustrations, or insecurities, she is not trying to create conflict. She is deepening connection. Vulnerability is her way of saying that she feels emotionally close enough to you to reveal her internal world. This is why labeling her openness as drama is so damaging. It turns intimacy into a threat and teaches her that honesty is unsafe. Over time, this creates emotional withdrawal, not peace. Vulnerability also requires courage. Expressing emotional truth means accepting the possibility of rejection or invalidation. Many women have learned through experience that being emotionally honest can lead to being dismissed, minimized, or criticized. So when she opens up to you, she is taking a calculated emotional risk. She is trusting that you will not weaponize her feelings, use them against her later, or lose respect for her because of them. This trust is deeply tied to attraction. She is drawn to the idea that you can handle her emotional depth without becoming overwhelmed or threatened. There is also an unconscious evaluation happening during these moments. She is observing whether you can stay grounded while she is emotionally expressive. Can you remain calm without shutting down? Can you listen without becoming defensive? Can you tolerate emotional intensity without needing to control it? These qualities signal emotional strength, not softness. For many women, emotional strength is far more attractive than emotional detachment. It suggests maturity, self-awareness, and the ability to create emotional safety. When vulnerability is met with presence rather than judgment, it strengthens attraction. She feels seen rather than exposed, understood rather than analyzed. This reinforces her desire to be emotionally close to you. But when vulnerability is dismissed or mocked, attraction erodes. She learns to hide parts of herself, to keep conversations shallow, and to emotionally self-protect. What looks like reduced drama is actually reduced intimacy. Understanding vulnerability as a sign of emotional attraction changes how you respond. Instead of bracing yourself or pulling away, you remain steady. You recognize that emotional openness is not something to manage or suppress, but something to respect. And respect, when consistently shown, deepens connection and sustains emotional closeness over time. When a woman tells you her problems, there is often an unspoken evaluation taking place that has nothing to do with the problem itself. She is not consciously testing you in a manipulative way, but she is observing how you show up when emotions enter the space. Masculine presence is revealed most clearly in moments of emotional intensity. It is easy to appear confident and calm when everything is light and pleasant. It is much harder to remain grounded, attentive, and emotionally stable when someone is expressing frustration, sadness, or overwhelm. This is the moment where emotional maturity is either demonstrated or exposed. Masculine presence is not about dominance or control. It is about steadiness. When she shares something heavy, she is watching whether your energy becomes anxious, irritated, or avoidant. If you become defensive or try to shut the conversation down, it signals emotional fragility. If you rush to fix or lecture, it can feel like you are trying to regain control rather than offer support. If you disengage or minimize her feelings, it communicates emotional absence. None of these responses feel safe. What feels safe is a man who can stay present without being consumed by the emotion in front of him. This silent test is about containment. Emotional containment does not mean suppressing emotions. It means being able to hold space for them without needing to escape or dominate the situation. When you listen calmly, maintain steady body language, and respond thoughtfully rather than reactively, you communicate that emotions do not destabilize you. This quality is deeply reassuring. It allows her to express herself fully without fearing that she will overwhelm you or cause conflict simply by being honest. Women are often drawn to men who can provide emotional grounding. This grounding creates a sense of psychological safety that allows vulnerability to exist without chaos. When you remain centered, she feels less alone in her emotional experience. She senses that she does not need to manage your reactions on top of managing her own feelings. This is a powerful dynamic because it allows her to relax rather than self-censor. Failing this silent test does not usually result in immediate confrontation. Instead, it creates subtle shifts. She may speak less openly, soften her emotional expression, or choose to process things on her own. These changes can be mistaken for peace or independence, but they often indicate emotional distancing. Passing the test, on the other hand, builds trust over time. Each moment of calm presence reinforces the belief that you are emotionally reliable. Masculine presence in these moments is communicated through restraint, attentiveness, and empathy. It is the ability to listen without interruption, to acknowledge without invalidating, and to remain emotionally regulated while another person is emotionally expressive. This kind of presence is not loud or dramatic, but it is deeply felt. It sets the foundation for emotional respect and long-term connection. When a woman stops telling you her problems, many men interpret it as relief. Fewer emotional conversations, fewer intense discussions, fewer moments that feel heavy or demanding. It can look like things have finally settled, but emotional silence is rarely a sign of comfort. More often, it is a sign of withdrawal. It means she has learned, consciously or unconsciously, that expressing herself in this space is no longer safe, useful, or welcomed. Silence is not the absence of emotion, it is the suppression of it. Women do not stop sharing because their problems disappear. Life does not suddenly become lighter. Stress, disappointment, fear, and frustration continue to exist. What changes is her expectation of being understood. When repeated attempts to open up are met with dismissal, irritation, or emotional unavailability, she adapts. She turns inward. She begins to regulate herself without involving you. This self-reliance may look like strength on the surface, but emotionally it signals disconnection. The bond weakens not through conflict, but through quiet resignation. Emotional sharing is a primary way women maintain closeness. When that channel closes, intimacy slowly erodes. Conversations become practical rather than personal. Interactions become polite rather than emotionally alive. She may still be present physically, but emotionally, she is elsewhere. This distancing often goes unnoticed until the relationship feels empty or transactional. By the time a man realizes something is wrong, she has already spent a long time emotionally disengaging. This is why silence is more dangerous than argument. Conflict at least indicates investment. It shows that she still cares enough to try, to explain, to express frustration in the hope of being understood. Silence indicates that hope has diminished. She no longer believes that sharing will lead to connection, so she stops offering that part of herself. Emotional withholding becomes a form of self-protection, not punishment. When a woman withdraws emotionally, she often does so gradually. She shares less, reacts less, asks for less. She may stop seeking comfort or reassurance. These changes can be subtle, easily mistaken for independence or maturity, but emotionally they reflect a shift from partnership to emotional self-containment. The relationship becomes less about shared emotional space and more about coexistence. Understanding this pattern is crucial. Emotional availability is not maintained by avoiding difficult conversations. It is maintained by handling them well. When a woman feels consistently heard and respected, she continues to share. When she feels misunderstood or emotionally unsupported, she learns to stay quiet. Silence is not peace. It is distance growing quietly, often long before anyone names it. When a woman tells you her problems, the most effective response is not action, advice, or correction, but presence. Presence means giving her your full attention without mentally preparing your reply or searching for a solution. It means allowing her words to land before you decide what they mean. Many men listen with the intention to respond. Emotionally mature men listen with the intention to understand. This shift changes the entire dynamic because it tells her that her inner experience matters more than your need to fix it. Acknowledgement is the foundation of this presence. Acknowledgement does not require agreement, and it does not require you to take responsibility for her emotions. It simply means recognizing that her feelings make sense within her experience. When you reflect back what you hear, you help her feel seen. Simple responses that name the emotion rather than analyze the situation create safety. This kind of validation calms the nervous system and reduces emotional intensity naturally, without force or logic. Staying emotionally regulated is also essential. When you remain calm and steady, you communicate that emotions are not a threat. Your tone, body language, and pacing matter more than your words. If you become tense, impatient, or distracted, she will feel it immediately. Emotional presence is felt before it is understood. When she senses that you are grounded, she feels less alone in what she is experiencing. This shared emotional space strengthens trust over time. Resisting the urge to interrupt or redirect the conversation is another key element. Let her finish her thoughts, even if they seem repetitive or unclear. Emotional processing is rarely linear. She may need to talk around the issue before she can name it clearly. Interrupting or steering the conversation too quickly can feel like control rather than support. Allowing her to take the time she needs communicates respect and patience. Only after she feels understood does advice become useful. Often she will signal this shift herself by asking what you think or what you would do. At that point, your input is received differently because it is grounded in understanding rather than dismissal. Your advice feels collaborative instead of corrective. This sequence matters. Understanding first, guidance second. What you should do instead is simple but not easy. Listen without fixing. Validate without minimizing. Stay present without controlling the outcome. These responses build emotional safety, deepen connection, and allow intimacy to grow naturally through mutual respect and understanding.